So this is a way in that as you think about opening up, and then what you do is you collect the stories, the photograph of the person wearing it, you know, and you let people tell their own stories associated with the objects. And maybe that you need to do an occupational dress day like a quilt, like those quilt ID days. But you need to do it about occupational clothing to see what comes in the door. And then see whether there's some of this that you want to try to hang on to. If you're worried about, you know, there has been some discussion about collecting occupational clothing. This is from Scottish Textile Heritage Online, which is a curatorial group in Scotland. They seem to be really smart. They're way ahead of us in terms of thinking about historical collections over in Scotland. And they have done a position paper on collecting occupational clothing that you can look at online. Another thing is community and celebrations and interpretations of historical dress. This is a dress that was created for the centennial of the town incorporation in Laurel. Nobody in Laurel ever wore a dress that looked like that, I absolutely promise you, in the 1880s, right? This and you know, this is a an old-timey pioneer-y dress, you know, with a big poke on it. But it's really interesting. It marched in the town parade, and it says something about how people related to their own history. Okay, when they wanted to present themselves as historical denizens of Laurel, they chose these kinds of garments. So it's an important object for thinking about community memory. So community, what I want you to think about is what we're going to call community curated content. This is actually a web approach that's usually used with documents, or the most famous example is Wikipedia, right? Which is community curated content. We all know that some people manipulate Wikipedia. There's some junk in Wikipedia, but there's also a lot of good stuff in Wikipedia. And if you become interested in opening up your collection to generate more community curated content, I will guarantee you're going to have mistakes. But you're also going to get stories you didn't have. You're also going to get a level of involvement that you did not have. Okay. So it's really a strategy that we can talk about. You know, what you want to think about now is how can I do, if this intrigues you as an idea, how can I bring community curated content to my organization in a scalable way that's not going to make me crazy? And there are, you know, lots of ways to sort of think about it. The poetry projects, man, that doesn't take anything. Right? That takes very little in terms of resources. And there are other ways you can do it. You can get things out that are in storage and do an old timer day. See if you can capture some information. You can try this kind of approach. You can try an approach like the Sanderson, where you invite people in the community to actually write about your objects, write essays about your objects, and then kind of make that part of the permanent record. So there's a lot of strategies in. What it means, what it's really about is sort of sharing authority about your collections. Okay, and that can be a real challenge for us museum folks because, like I said, we spend a long time learning how to be the experts. But especially for smaller organizations, what I would say is the wave of the future. The wave of the future is that there can be no behind the scenes for small community-based organizations. Those of us who founded them and worked in them early on, we got to have all the fun, and we have to let other people have some of the fun too, right? We have to let other people in. And for small organizations in particular, that's the only way that you're going to survive, is by opening the door for other people to get to sort of engage your collections and the other kinds of assets like that that you have. So thank you very much. And I look forward to talking with you more, and I hope we have some time for questions. And thank you. So,
2 questions, yes.
Okay. Questions for anybody? Everybody's dying for coffee.
I have a question about your philosophy about deaccessioning. Because it seems to me that deaccessioning is one of those things that we have got to change our attitude about deaccessioning, and that it's not, you know, the horror that we think it is.
I agree.
And I've been impressed that in the British Museum Association, they publish and make available to everybody in the association objects that people are going to deaccession.
Yes.
So that other institutions could get them.
Yes.
It's not something we do very openly in the US, and
I
I'll
think
give
one
you
of
my
the,
opinion, but
yeah,
yeah.
no, I'm
Yeah.
absolutely with you. I mean, because the other thing is if you do community-based collecting, you're gonna make some mistakes, and you have to be willing to sort of acknowledge that and cull what you brought in at some point. And the other thing is that, you know, you've probably got, of course, we have other issues with small organizations where, how many of you guys have what really constitutes abandoned cultural property? No paper records, right, for your objects. Yeah, real common. And that's another deaccessioning problem. And if you don't have good abandoned cultural property legislation in your state, it can be hard to find a path forward with those kinds of things. But I do think that you need to feel that we need to open up deaccessioning and see it as, actually, it's not that it's just necessarily going to the auction block or something like that, that what you're going to do is, it'd be great if someplace like the Maryland Historic Trust actually published deaccession lists so that organizations could actually trade materials.
Right, exactly.
Because another way to get around deaccessioning is by trading. Okay, so things may stay in a public, or, you know, another group that doesn't have small museum association, maybe something that SMA needs to think about is to put materials up. It could be sort of a closed member-based thing on the website, so if you were a member, you could participate in the deaccession list and trade materials. I do think we need to open up some stuff like that. The other thing is you undoubtedly have stuff that's in the wrong place. You know, in Delaware, we see things in Laurel that really belong in Dover or Smyrna or Middletown and vice versa, right? And what's happened is people don't know how to move them around. And so we need to sort of figure out a way to make that possible, to sort of help you reshape your collection so that they're, yeah. But I agree, I think what's happened is deaccessioning. And in fact, what made deaccessioning such a scandal was not even the small places, it was, you know, some things at big places.
Why don't we, I know I said two, I'm going to renege on that and say
All
one.
right. Great. I look forward to, you know, I'm looking forward to sitting in on the workshops and listening in to see what you guys are thinking about it. And